Well, welcome to Why Did You Read That? Question mark.
Hello.
Starring Megan.
Yes, starring me.
And co-starring me, Peter. Do you have a joke for me?
I do have a joke. Why don't we see elephants hiding in trees?
Gotta be the trunk. Something with the trunk.
No, it's because
Okay.
they're so good at it.
This is getting into, like, David Lynch absurd.
Come on, that's a good one.
I kind of like it. Especially because it sent me down the trunk road, which seems like the obvious Laffy Taffy road, and then...
Switcheroo.
Oh, no. Well, today we've got a new episode.
Yes, we do. We're a little late. We apologize.
Yeah, a little late. It's my fault.
It's both of our faults. I was on vacation, and then you were on vacation directly after.
Yep. Yeah, we kind of both take time off during our people's holiday, which is Halloween.
That's correct.
Which is, I guess, weirdos. But, yeah, watched a lot of horror movies.
Yep.
I read some horror, some of which I'm excited to talk about today.
All right.
So today we're going to have a normal episode, an unthemed episode.
Normal in quotations.
Yeah, as normal as this gets. Yeah. And in the past, we've done some themes. Next month,
yes,
we have a very exciting countdown top 10 reads of 2020.
2021, Peter.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to the future.
Oh, boy. It's a good thing I don't write checks. 1997-ish? We're going to have a countdown of top 10 reads. So it won't necessarily be stuff that was published in 2021.
Right.
Because that would be pushing the limit. I'd basically have to just count down everything I read in 2021. And be like, I guess this is my top 10.
You've read more than 10 books.
But not published in 2021.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah. No, I've got a good amount to do that I read in 2021 that I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah.
Although I might end up burning one of them today.
Oh.
So.
Well, and I guess that's a question. Can we repeat titles that we've already discussed?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so, because it'll be, just kind of a brief, especially if it's one we discussed.
If we're going over 20 books.
Yeah, we'll have to keep it pretty crispy.
Have to keep moving.
But today is just going to be the normal format. I bring 4 books.
Yep.
You pick 2 that you want to hear about.
Mm-hmm.
You bring 4 books. I pick 2 I want to hear about.
I have 4.
All right. I can't remember who went first. I can never remember who went first. We need like a magnet like you have for the dishwasher that's like clean, dirty. And it's Megan, Peter, who went first.
But where do we keep it? We don't have a dishwasher to put it on.
Okay, we need to make that the album art for the show. And then we flip it every time.
Let's see. All right, it looks like I went first.
Oh, okay.
So now it's your turn.
All right, so I'll read you my 4.
Okay.
And then you can pick one and we'll go from there.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay, I have a theme that I think you'll be able to figure out pretty quickly.
Okay.
Book 1 is Clowns vs. Spiders by Jeff Strand.
Okay.
This is kind of a horror book.
You're kidding.
Yeah, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Scary clowns versus scary spiders.
As on the label.
Pretty great. The next one is a book of short stories called Hark, the Herald Angels Scream.
I believe I'm familiar with this one.
And specifically, I want to talk about a Jeff Strand story called Good Deeds.
Okay.
Which is a hilarious Christmas/horror story.
Okay.
The next one is called The Greatest Zombie Movie Ever by Jeff Strand. And it's about a group of teenagers trying to make the greatest zombie movie ever.
Are you having a Jeff Strand love affair?
Yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I only had 3. So I was like, I'll just have to throw a 4th in there. And I was trying to figure out what to do, and I just picked something.
Okay.
And so the 4th is I can't remember the title.
Uh-oh.
I remember every word except for one, and it's the most important one.
Hit me.
The Something of Sound by Chuck Palahniuk.
What is it?
The Something of Sound. It's his last novel. The Audacity of Sound. The Legacy of Sound. The Prodigy of Sound.
The Invention of Sound?
The Invention of Sound.
You're welcome.
By Chuck Palahniuk.
See what happens when a person brings a laptop so they can look things up instead of just a sheet of paper they don't put anything on?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well,
Not to name and shame.
Yeah, not to say that a laptop is better than, a sheet of paper that doesn't have the correct information. This isn't blank, but it didn't have the information I needed.
Oh, wow. Might as well be blank.
So anyway, those are my 4 choices. 3 Jeff Strand things and a not Jeff Strand.
All right. Well, I think I cannot not choose clowns versus spiders.
I agree. It would be a mistake to skip that.
It would be an error.
So, clowns versus spiders. I'll give you the brief setup.
Please.
There's a group of clowns, and they are genuine, circus clowns. They love being clowns.
They're not scary clowns. They're ha-ha
clowns. They are not scary clowns.
Okay.
And, work for a circus for a long, long time. But then, get sort of, the circus closes or they lose their circus jobs or something because over the last decade, somehow people have become very afraid of clowns. Mm. I'm not here to suggest that clowns are not scary. I just I find it funny because it's there are 2 or 3 scary clowns in culture. There's Pennywise.
Yeah.
There's a episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark, I guess, with a scary clown.
You are forgetting the clown of my own nightmares. The poltergeist clown.
Oh, there was the poltergeist. Yeah. At some point, we did a total 180 on clowns.
Yeah.
And I think that's so weird because there's maybe 5 clowns in culture that are scary and 1 billion clowns that weren't scary.
Well, they weren't meant to be scary, but they have those unnatural grins that just don't go away.
They do have a creepy vibe to them.
They do.
So anyway, they find themselves in the modern day when clowns are scary, and so they lose their circus job, and the only job they can find, because it's a group of 4 or 5 clowns, and they want to stick together.
Sure.
They're circus family.
Sure.
So they find a job working at a haunted house in the scary clown room. So, so they all get a job and they get sort of mentorship from a guy who's not a legit clown. He's a scary clown. And so he kind of joins their team. Meanwhile, across town, there's a mine that is being explored because basically it's an abandoned mine shaft and there might be a cave underneath or whatever. They're not really sure. It's all explained from the contractor's POV. And he's there's this super rich guy in town who just does things on a lark, and he's probably going to have us open this cave up and be okay, by then I'll forget about it and not be interested in opening an attraction here.
Eccentric millionaire.
Exactly. So they open up the mine, and what emerges is giant, venomous spiders.
Have you seen 8-Legged Freaks?
No.
This sounds very much like 8-Legged Freaks to me.
They aren't that giant.
Okay.
They're I don't know, sewer lid size.
That's pretty giant.
They're big.
I mean, granted, not as giant as 8-Legged Freaks, but that's still something I would run from.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
horrifying.
I run from little spiders.
Terrible. And there's 1 billion of them.
Ugh.
They just come pouring out, attack everyone. So, it begins in the haunted house, and the spiders get in the haunted house, and then the clowns are sort of trying to escape and help other people escape, but, their attempts to help other people escape are not met with, oh, thank goodness you're here, clown. Because they're all dressed like murderous clowns.
First I get attacked by spiders, now I'm being attacked by clowns.
Yeah. And so I ran from the spider into the arms of a helpful murderous clown. So anyway, from there it kind of plays out like a creature feature.
Okay.
They do, they kind of try to escape the spiders. They try and defeat the spiders in various ways, and it's a very funny story. Mm-hmm. It's a comedic horror movie or horror novel. It's very in the vein of a Shaun of the Dead or something, where it's the spiders are a legit threat and the spiders aren't funny in any way.
Right.
But the way the whole situation is presented is very funny. And it's good stuff.
Yeah, it sounds good.
I ended up stumbling across this because I have this tradition with my brother of I send him weird clown stuff that I've come across. I found this like creepy clown tape dispenser, and stuff like that. So, and one time I got him this book, and it's a book of the clown registry. So apparently the way that clowns copyrighted their makeup, their look, was there was this museum in the UK where they would paint the clown's makeup on eggs, and then the eggs would all be on display. And so that was how they kept track of who had what makeup and that kind of thing. And each clown has a little bio and all that stuff.
See, I was 100% with you until the eggs.
I know.
I'm like, why not either just use like a mask or draw it on paper?
I guess here's what they said. They said that it's because the rounded shape of the egg better displays the makeup. I don't really buy that. I think it's because they're clowns and they just wanted to do it some way that's weird. Because, I mean, yeah, I would just say like, well, we're clowns. Mm-hmm. So why would we do something in a normal way when we could do it in a clowny way? But anyway, it's pretty hilarious and entertaining, and there are some creepy looking clowns.
I'm shocked to hear it.
It just seems like some of them, the way they did their makeup, I was like, nobody ever told you this was weird. Like, nobody thought this was creepy. No one told you.
Do you think there's a part of them that knows?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what it is with clowns. I don't have access to a clown. I
mean, consider yourself, lucky.
Yeah. I mean, but anyway, the story's funny too, because like they try and use their clown skills to yeah, to like defeat the spiders, but also
they jam a bunch of spiders into a tiny car.
No, but a bunch of them end up in one car to try and make a getaway, and then they have to form like a human pyramid in order to reach a thing and stuff like that.
Okay,
it's not overdone. It's not too much, but it's just enough.
All right.
And then, while they're working in the haunted house, they're trying to use their clown skills, like juggling fake severed heads and stuff. And there's one clown named Reginald who's like, his clown thing is that he's like a very proper clown or whatever. So he's like really struggling with like being a creepy weirdo. Right. And the other clown is trying to like coach him to scream or make gross noises or whatever, and he just can't do it. So anyway, highly entertaining.
It sounds like it would make a good movie.
I think it would make a fantastic movie. It's like a Shudder original or a Huluween or whatever. Yeah. If you guys are looking for a story to adapt, this is gold.
Yeah, all of those Hollywood execs who listen to us.
Oh, yeah.
Take
for
note.
Ideas. Yeah. Well, it just seems like every book's been optioned for a movie, yeah. And I'm like, why not option one that would actually be pretty good?
Yeah. The books that are being optioned are also good.
Yeah.
But this sounds like a unique kind of story.
I have to ask you a quick question about, so Halloween 2018, yes. The movie, was made into a novel.
And I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, and it's got like actually pretty good reviews. But I'm very confused about, I guess I thought that was over. The days of like, take a movie.
Novelizations.
Novelize it, and then.
I don't think it is.
I guess not.
And I wish I could remember what it was, but I feel like I heard about another novelization recently that was it was the Ghostbusters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Ghostbusters, they just released the novelization because apparently it's really good.
Of the new one? Or
of the old one.
Oh, yeah.
They re-released it because apparently it's beloved. People think it's great. I
have this on my Kindle waiting for me. So I'm very curious to see if it's I got one time. It was for the Howard the Duck movie novelization. And a bunch of people were like, the novel is amazing. It's hilarious, whatever. And I was like, all right, I'll bite. Mistake. It's not amazing.
I wish you could see under my mask my shocked face.
Well, that's the worst part is because, like, you buy this thing, you take it home, and you're like, this is going to be a hidden gem, and it's not a hidden gem.
Yeah.
And then every time you tell someone, they're like, did you really think the Howard the Duck novelization was going to be a hidden gem? And I'm like, I guess not.
Like you're an elementary school kid.
Yeah. You know what you did wrong.
Sorry.
You're right. So anyway, that's a brief look at Clowns vs. Spiders by Jeff Strand.
Yeah.
The cover is also horrifying.
Okay.
It's like a scary looking clown inside of a spider web, basically.
Two terrifying things are more terrifying together.
Yeah.
Although all in this case maybe less terrifying together.
Yeah, if you liked Killer Clowns from Outer Space, this is your jam.
Classic.
Yeah. All right.
All right. You ready for my 4?
I am.
All right. First off, I've got a graphic novel called Star Pig by Delilah S. Dawson.
Okay.
Which is about teenagers who are going to space camp in the late 21st century, and space camp is in space. And there's a big accident, and one of them ends up being saved by a giant space tardigrade.
Okay. I've seen the art for this somewhere. Yeah. Okay.
The second is World of Wonders by Aimee Nezhukumatathil. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I looked it up. I'm quite possible I got it wrong. This was on the New York Times bestseller list for quite some time, so I think a lot of people have heard of it. It's like essays about like meditations on things in nature combined with memoir. And there's some pretty artwork in it as well.
All right.
Then I'm doing a comfort reread of A Boy Meets Girl by Meg Cabot, who wrote The Princess Diaries. So this is like 2004 rom-com. Then we've got The Tubman Command by Elizabeth Cobbs, which is about the time that Harriet Tubman led a group of scouts into a military action behind the front lines in the Civil War.
Is this a nonfiction?
It is fiction, but it is written by a historian.
Oh, okay. I mean, I like space stuff, but I think first I want to hear about Boy Meets Girl because I feel like that's the biggest U-turn from the last book we talked about. So comfort, you know, like romance, yeah.
Give people some whiplash. All right. Well, like I said, it was originally published in 2004, which was kind of the height of the chick lit craze, you know, the Bridget Jones era of chick lit novels.
When like all the rom-coms moved from movies to books, it seemed like for a minute there.
And I feel like we're starting to see that again.
I think so too.
Yeah, we're having a resurgence of that, so it felt like the right time to maybe revisit this one. Meg Cabot is still publishing this kind of book. But this one, I don't know. There are things about it that make it special for me. And obviously Meg Cabot wrote The Princess Diaries. So this was one of her first adult novels that she published under her own name. She'd written a series of romance novels as, I think, Patricia Cabot.
Oh, okay.
But this she had started publishing now under her. She was a big enough draw that I think they were like, let's use your name. So the entirety of the book is told like through what we call epistolary fashion. So it's all emails, instant messages, written notes, memos, all that kind of thing. The entire book, which makes it a really fast read. And also like everyone else, I think I'm having a little bit of a focus issue these days. So having these like little bite-sized funny snippets make it easy for my brain to focus.
Okay.
So that's part of why I'm reading it now. I think it's easily digestible.
Right.
For my poor beleaguered brain.
You're like sitting in a waiting room somewhere. You've got an unknown amount of time. Somewhere between 8 and 10,000 minutes of 5,025,600,000 minutes.
Even when I'm at home and I'm completely undistracted, I just can't focus on things.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. So this is something that I can focus on because it's changing up so often. It's like 3 pages of emails followed by a couple pages of an instant message conversation. So it like keeps my interest.
Okay.
Yeah. So the story is Kate is our main character. She has been dating the same guy since high school. He's in a band. She went to school to become a social worker.
Okay.
And then they both moved to New York so that he could make it big and she could be a social worker. He is working on making it big while relying on her to clean everything.
Okay.
She burned out on being a social worker because it felt kind of hopeless. So they've broken up because she doesn't see their relationship going anywhere. And she quit being a social worker and took a job at her friend, like where her friend works, as an HR rep.
Okay.
Kind of a change.
Yeah.
So her boss, they call the TOD, Tyrannical Office Despot, which gives you, I think, a sense of the sense of humor of this book. And the Tyrannical Office Despot is dating the head legal counsel for this newspaper where they work. And they have a dessert cart in the lunchroom. And the dessert lady, everybody loves her. Desserts are amazing. She's charming. She refuses to serve pie to this lawyer. And the only thing she will say is, he knows why. So the Tyrannical Office Despot orders Kate to fire the dessert cart lady, Ida Lopez.
Whoa.
Yeah. She doesn't want to do it.
Because of this pie issue?
Because of the pie issue.
Okay.
Yes. So there's a whole transcript of the meeting they have where she fires Ida, and she bursts into tears when she tells her she has to leave. The lovely dessert cart lady is like, I understand it's not your fault. Here, you need a good man. Let me give you my special recipe for chocolate chip cookies, and anyone will fall for you. And patting her on the back while she's just ugly sobbing. So it's pretty funny.
Okay.
And then, so after she leaves, they get notice that the union is suing the company for wrongful termination.
Oh, no.
So Kate has to, meet with lawyers and be involved in the defense of the company for this firing, where she meets the lawyer representing the company, who happens to be Stuart, the he knows why lawyer, his brother.
Okay.
So she's expecting him to be just as much of a stuffed shirt, kind of awful guy. He turns out to be younger, he's cute, he wears a Rocky and Bullwinkle tie. It turns out he used to work in pro bono work, helping people who needed help, but he stepped into the family firm while his dad was recovering from heart something.
Okay.
So these two kind of hit it off, and it becomes like a flirtation and a rom-com.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Really light, really funny. I laugh out loud on the regular. Yeah.
Sounds great.
It's great. I really like it. She has a whole series of these boy meets girl, boy next door, and they're all kind of this very light, very fluffy. You read it, enjoy it, and it's not going to leave a bad taste in your mouth.
Has this one ever been made into a movie?
Not to my knowledge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think it could make a good one. Although half of the charm is in the emails and the instant messages. And
I always like when a book does something that doesn't really translate to film.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, take that, film.
Yeah. Make this work.
Do you think this would... Okay, I had this idea for a very unpopular library initiative.
Okay.
Which is that, the library would basically do a hostile takeover of public utilities and turn off the internet and cell service for 3 hours every Friday evening.
I think we would get pilloried.
I think so too. But
I might partake in the pillorying. I need my internet.
But maybe people would read more. Because they'd be like, well, what are we... I've been watching some older horror movies, and everybody in older horror movies goes to bed and opens a book.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're sitting there reading a book, and if it's a couple, they're both reading different books. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm like, that does not happen.
It makes me think of the scene in When Harry Met Sally, where he's talking about how he reads the last page of books first in case he dies.
Yeah.
And they show him reading, I think it's Misery. He flips it in.
Yeah, and it's I feel like people used to read more.
Yeah.
And talk about books a little bit more.
Yeah.
And maybe by making that the most convenient form of entertainment. I don't know.
I feel like people might dig their heels in.
They might.
Maybe if you give them the opportunity to bank those hours in advance, if you've read 3 hours this week, you get your internet.
Oh, okay. So turn it from a thing into a threat.
Yeah, from a carrot into a whip, or vice versa.
The town that dreaded sundown on Friday because the power goes, or the internet goes away.
Yeah. And people can only read. I don't think they would, though.
I guess this is kind of how, like, the purge starts, right?
Yeah.
Because then it's like, oh, it was kind of convenient when I could call, like, emergency services.
True.
This could be a heist plot. It's like, this is a town that turns off the internet and cell service.
We have a 3-hour
every
window
Sunday.
to get into the bank.
Yeah. Yeah, and no one can call anyone.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Bad idea. Well-intentioned, bad idea.
Well, it's a brainstorm. We don't use an umbrella in a brainstorm.
Anyway, Boy Meets Girl, that sounds pretty good.
I really like it. I'm a big fan of Meg Cabot in general, and I feel like some of her early stuff is really, really gold.
I like to sometimes when a book is like, I don't know, it's just entertaining.
Yeah.
You're like, I just enjoy it.
Yeah. And we've had enough drama in the world the last 2 years. Like, sometimes all I want is like a feel-good book that's just going to be fun, and that's all.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like books have become this like realm of homework.
Yeah.
It's like, if I'm going to improve myself by tidying, I'll go to a book, or if I'm going to just be a better person in some way, that's like the realm of books.
Yeah.
And it can't be just for fun anymore, and
yeah,
I think that's a shame.
Yeah, and there's a group of people, a school of thought maybe, that looks down on people who read the fluffy stuff.
Yeah.
And I violently disagree with that.
Me too.
Yeah.
As someone who reads something that's also fluffy in a completely different way.
Right.
I totally agree.
Yeah. Reading is a hobby, and it doesn't always have to be, you don't have to read about, like, poverty in India, you know, to get the benefits of reading.
Right. Yeah, it's like if you do like knitting or something, it's like, yeah, I mean, you could like knit sweaters for preemie babies in the hospital or something, but you could also knit something goofy sometimes just for fun.
A toilet paper roll cover.
Yeah.
Just 'cause.
Yeah. It's not like you have to spend your life being like, well, I can only read one book.
Exactly.
Ever.
People
so I better pick multitudes. A good one. Yeah. Excellent.
All right.
All right.
So I am going to choose The Invention of Sound, because I know how much you love to talk about your buddy Chuck.
My friend Chuck. Chucky P.
Your good pal.
He is my good pal. Yeah, his latest thing is he's started a Substack, which is like a subscription newsletter, and so his newest novel is being serialized on there. So it's kind of a weird new thing. I don't know how I feel about it yet.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest, I've been getting the emails, pasting them into a Word document, and then printing them out, because that's how I prefer to read.
Did you know that you can send Word documents to your Kindle, or your Kindle app?
Yes.
Could do that. I
could do that. But I'm kind of like, I read part of it, and now I'm waiting for it to finish.
Yeah.
But anyway, the invention of sound, the audacity of sound, whatever of sound.
The book that shall not be named.
Yeah. Is his last novel that
last
came
is
out.
In most recent.
Yeah, his most recent. Yep. No, he's still alive. He apparently during the pandemic he built a castle out of stone and concrete.
Like a castle-sized castle?
Like a 6-room castle
that you can live in.
You could be in it, yeah. I don't know if it has like a bathroom and all that stuff, but yeah, it's a little castle.
Of castles didn't.
He had a Halloween party there.
Okay.
With some lady playing scary violin music in the woods around the castle.
Sounds awesome.
Sounds the most Chuck Palahniuk thing to ever Chuck Palahniuk. So anyway, The Invention of Sound is follows a few different characters. The primary characters are it's mostly follows this guy who lost his daughter at a very young age. Like, he doesn't know she got kidnapped or went missing and hasn't been able to find her. And so part of his job is he looks through images and videos that have been made of people that are of an adult nature, where they suspect that the people may have been human trafficked. And so he's doing this for his job, but he's also kind of also looking for his daughter.
That sounds horrible.
It's pretty dark. And then there's this Foley artist who's kind of one of the other stars of the book.
By Foley artist, for people who are unfamiliar.
Someone who makes sounds and sound effects and stuff for movies and TV.
Right.
And, she has a recording studio where she does this and, records a bunch of different sounds. And she kind of inherited this business from somebody else.
Okay.
So what brings the two characters together is at some point the father character is watching something and hears a scream in a horror movie that he is 100% convinced is his daughter. Mm. And he can just tell because he remembers what she sounds like. And, at some point she had screamed and it sounded just like this. So then he kind of gets connected to the person doing the Foley art based on that, because it's an older movie at this point because his daughter's been missing for 15 years or something like that. And, there's a lot of sequences where it's this would be a tough read, I think, for parents.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
I think it probably addresses a lot of a parent's worst fears.
Yeah.
And it kind of keeps drilling down into how terrible it is, because he's every year we have to go to somebody to update, what she would look like now, picture and stuff like that. And
so this is a read with caution book.
Yeah. I would say most of his books are kind of if you're a sensitive soul, probably not going to be your jam.
Okay.
But it's very fast paced. It's kind of like some of his other books. It seems like he writes each chapter almost as its own short story. It'll have its own mechanics and its own devices and things going on in each chapter. So it makes it super interesting because you're following the plot, but then you're also sort of learning the device and learning how this chapter is being explored each time. So it kind of gives you two different layers of exploration in each chapter. So it goes to some pretty dark places, and the story expands to be a much broader sort of thing. Mm-hmm. It's I don't want to be society or whatever. It's not quite that bad, but it's it goes to a different place, I guess. Okay. And it's just a quick read. It's an interesting read because you kind of, with most of his books, you learn stuff about how sounds are made, and then also how missing people searches are done and stuff like that. And then, but you also get this very human element that kind of builds and builds. And I think that's the tension of this book builds over time because of that human side of things. Mm-hmm. So it kind of subtly builds to the point where you're just then you get the big climax and stuff. And that's where you kind of realize this human thing has been happening this whole time. And that connects very strongly. Sometimes he does that and it doesn't hit it out of the park for me. And this one did.
Okay.
So I felt pretty good about that. And I highly recommend it. But like you said, not for everybody.
Right.
It's probably not a book that everyone is going to appreciate.
Sure.
It definitely goes to a dark place, and specifically a place that might be challenging for parents.
Yeah. Does it have, can you, without spoiling, can you tell people if it has a bleak ending, or is there some optimism?
It's sort of a mixture, I guess. Okay. It's kind of a bleak ending that also, I guess it turns out okay for some characters and not as good for other characters. And he does this kind of a lot, I think, where he's got an ending that it's you can kind of see the cycle of how things happen, and they get really big and then collapse under their own weight. And then the end of the book kind of starts where it's but the cycle's sort of just starting to begin again.
Okay.
So it's kind of like that.
Okay.
So it's a little bit I feel like a lot of horror works that way,
sure.
Right?
The evil is dead, or is it?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not an ending you walk away from with your faith in humanity restored.
Okay.
But it's not so bleak that you're just like, everything's pointless. Like,
it's going to take to my bed.
Yeah. It's just, yeah.
Okay.
I need a fainting couch for my...
Right.
just to recover my wits for a minute.
Swoon.
Yeah. But I just think it's highly... it's like the others. It's highly entertaining.
Okay.
And I think it's... if you're willing to go along and trust him for the ride, I think it does pay off.
All right.
I want to hear about Space Camp.
Star Pig?
Star Pig. I said Space Camp knowing that wasn't the title. Not remembering the actual title is more fun.
Yeah. Space Pig is great. All right. Or no, I'm sorry. I said Space Pig and I was wrong too. It's Star Pig.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. I wish it was Space Pig now, to be honest, but...
Star Pig is pretty great.
That's fine.
So, Star Pig is written by Delilah S. Dawson, who has written other kind of graphic novels. I know you're familiar with her.
Mm-hmm.
And illustrated by Francesco Gaston. And the art is part of what drew me to it. It's this kind of like 80s retro arcade aesthetic.
Yeah.
Lots of neon pinks and blues, and if you see it, you'll recognize it immediately. Like it's an iconic look.
Feels like that a little bit like that one laser background they had for school pictures.
Exactly. Yeah.
Everybody at the time was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." I have
my own school picture with the lasers.
Me too. It was like 2 kids in the entire school didn't have laser pictures, and it was because their parents were like, "No, you'll be doing the autumnal scene." And you're like, "Oh, those poor kids."
Yeah, they have problems today.
They've never recovered.
Never recovered. So the story is, it's like the late 21st century, like 27 something, and it's a bunch of teenagers, like I think 15, 16, and they're on a transport on their way to space camp in space because it's 27 something. So space camp is in space.
Now, is this like, is space camp at this point, like in space, mundane as like...
it is still considered a thing that nerds do.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Okay. I badly wanted to go to space camp.
So one of the fun things about this is that like 80s and 90s culture is popular again. So like all of these teens are wearing like 80s looking fashions, and they have Discmen and like all of this stuff. It's lots of call outs to 80s and 90s pop culture, even a little 70s pop culture. And so they're on their way, and our main character, her name is Vess, and she is sitting in her chair, and her fellow students are like, "You have to put your seatbelt on," or whatever. She's listening to her music and not paying attention. So something happens, or some kind of an accident, and just like in an airplane, all of the oxygen masks like come down off the ceiling, But there's like a hole blown in the side of the transport, and everybody dies except for Vess. So she's flown out, like thrown out of the space transport, and she's about to die, and then all of a sudden she's swallowed by an enormous tardigrade. Giant pink tardigrade, which for people who are unfamiliar with them, they're also called water bears or moss piglets. They're these, like, they actually exist, but they're microscopic. They're very tiny, and they live in like drops of water and stuff like that. They're really amazing because they can live in the vacuum of space. They can survive in like a hibernation state for hundreds of years. Like, they're incredible. So check out tardigrades on
They're
the
very
internet.
cool if you've never heard of them.
They're very cool. They're also very weird looking. They have like 6 legs with little claws, and their face looks kind of horrific.
It reminds me of not the remake version, but the original on Return of the Jedi, and there's the sand pit,
yes.
the Sarlacc pit.
Yes.
It's kind of like ringed with teeth.
Yes.
It's weird.
I don't think they really have teeth, but they have that like round mouth that kind of like expands and opens, and
it's weird.
It kind of extends out a little like the alien mouth.
Yeah.
But they're not scary or mean. They just look a little weird, and but they're harmless. They're perfectly harmless. So she's swallowed by a giant tardigrade, like Space Jonah and the Whale. And because tardigrades can survive in the vacuum of space, like it basically swallowed her to save her life.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So she's sitting in its stomach and they're kind of communicating. So it can't talk, but it can like psychically talk to her.
Okay.
So they're having a conversation. And all of a sudden they're caught in like a tractor beam with the ship. And they're brought on board this other giant space vessel that is being piloted by a sentient cloud of spores.
Sure.
Yep. So it's like a fungus cloud.
Just basically. Slowly turning up the weird volume.
Oh, yeah. And so this sentient cloud of spores reminds me a little bit of Guardians of the Galaxy. Benicio del Toro's character, the Collector.
Mm-hmm.
This is like this sentient cloud of spores.
Okay.
He, like everyone else, is obsessed with pop culture of the late 20th century. And he has a giant collection with like artifacts from, Star Wars. It has the Carbonite Han Solo, and it has a perfectly preserved Keanu Reeves.
Like the guy?
Yep.
Okay.
He had him in like a terrarium, and then when he died, he preserved him.
Oh, don't worry. When you die, you'll be perfectly preserved.
And this is his plan for Vess, we find out. He's like, she's an actual human teen. She's going to be the star of his collection, and when she dies, he'll like put her in like a crystal block or something. Yeah.
All right.
So Vess and the tardigrade, who she has named Theo, are on this new sentient cloud of spores kind of ship. And as she figures out what the plans are, she and Theo are trying to figure out how to beat the cloud of spores and escape, basically. And, it's very short, so that's really all I can say without spoiling things, apart from it's definitely over-the-top wacky. You have to just kind of lay back and let it all happen. And it's funny, and the look of it is really cool. It has like a trapper-keeper, video game. Like, it just looks great. And it has, it's a tardigrade. Like, that's really what brought me to it. I was like, a space tardigrade? Sign me up.
Why not?
Yeah.
That sounds pretty excellent.
It's pretty fun. And I think that there's a chance that more issues will be coming.
Yeah.
This is one that we don't have a physical copy of, but you can get it on Hoopla.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found we have a lot of comics on Hoopla we do not have in print.
It's true.
But there's a pretty big collection on there.
Yeah.
And
honestly, I feel like this is more findable on Hoopla because I read the physical copy because I bought one because tardigrades.
Yeah.
And it's very small and thin. So I feel like if it were on the shelf, it would just get wedged between two larger books and it would never get checked out because no one would ever see it.
That can happen.
Yeah.
That's fair. That sounds pretty excellent.
It was so much fun and super fast. I read it in one sitting. It's bizarre in a fun way.
Yeah. Twisty turny.
Yeah.
Not evil villain.
No.
But not the best outcome for the hero character if the villain gets what they want.
Yeah. I mean, the sentient cloud of spores is not... He's not, an evil character, right. But he's also, like, trying to do bad things.
Yeah.
And he's not human, and he doesn't think like a human, and...
If there is a sentient cloud of spores that wants a human person, I will gladly sign away my remains and just come collect me when I'm dead.
Yeah.
Give me like a, space phone.
Are we broadcasting this into space?
Sure, yeah. We'll put this on a golden record and shoot it into space. And it's like, hey, if anybody wants a human for their collection.
Yeah.
I cannot vouch for what condition I may be in.
Well,
by the time I naturally perish. But
if they get the message and rush right over here and you've been dead for 10 years.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, or if I live for another, what would make me pretty old? 60 years would make me pretty old. I'm not going to be able to pass for an American teen if that's what you're looking for.
But you will still be 100% legitimate human.
Yeah.
So there's always that.
If you're looking for American teen, that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
By the time you're hearing this message, you're 20 years too late.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds pretty good.
It's fun. Both of mine are fairly light and insubstantial, but a really great time.
Yeah, I went 50-50. One is dark and insubstantial. The other one is dark and substantial.
Well, hey, we're covering the whole spectrum of light then.
That's true. That was our theme, our accidental theme.
It's like in a restaurant, smoking or non back in the day.
Yeah.
Now we're like dark or light.
Yeah. And it's like, well, kind of just seated somewhere and
see what you get.
They're really kind of both the smoking section when you get right down to it. All right. Oh, I had like a $1 million idea on that today because I was like, how come they don't sell like ice cream that's a mix of chocolate and vanilla at different ratios?
What do you mean at different ratios?
Like
mostly chocolate, a little bit of vanilla?
Yeah, 75-25, 60-30, 40-60.
Because that would be very expensive to produce, would be my guess.
I guess so. But then do the, see which one people buy and then could just continue one.
I think they would do that with market research.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I could do it myself with a blender.
Good.
But...
So are you thinking more like Neapolitan style, or are you mixing them together?
They're mixed, fully integrated. So it's like you take 3 scoops of chocolate, 1 of vanilla, mix it all together so it's homogeneous, and then that's the flavor.
All right, so here's my question.
That was kind of an exhausted, all right.
Why?
Because why not?
That's not a good reason.
I think it's a great reason.
Okay.
I mean, because number one, it's a gimmick. And it's like...
we know you love a gimmick.
Everything needs a gimmick. Everything sells based on a gimmick. I mean, somebody who works at Twix was like, let's designate them left and right. And it's like, well, that really doesn't make any sense.
That didn't involve any actual change to the manufacturing process.
No.
It was just funny.
Well, this just involves getting a blender, a big blender.
Not if you're talking about national distribution, it doesn't.
But if they can make flavors with, puffed potato chip balls in them, certainly.
Sure, but the problem is, we are way off course here, but I'm going to finish my thought anyway. The problem is, say you're doing 25-75, 50-50, 25-75.
Yeah.
That is, so then also assuming you have full vanilla, full chocolate.
Yeah.
That is 5 varieties of chocolate that need to be branded, packaged, sold, shipped, and produced.
Yeah.
That's very expensive.
But
for something that is not that much of a change.
Think about this, though. I could start an ice cream company and have 5 flavors, but really only have 2. I could have a whole line of ice creams, but really I only made 2 flavors.
But nobody's going to buy the ice cream of this is really just vanilla and chocolate line.
Right, the plain ones?
Yeah.
Well, okay, but then you sell it in, when you go to a brewery and they give you a flight. You sell it in a thing where you get a tiny little of vanilla and a tiny little chocolate on the other end, and in between is all the variation.
See, now you're talking about boutique ice cream shops, which is even more expensive.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. This little flight of ice cream will cost $40.
Right. I'm putting the kibosh on this.
It's happening just in time for Valentine's Day.
No,
that's
we're not,
the plan.
We're not discussing this eccentric millionaire idea anymore.
Fair enough. So real quick, just to go back over the things I brought, Clown versus Spiders, which I talked about, which is clowns fighting spiders. Hark the Herald Angels Scream is a collection of horror-themed Christmas stories. I actually do not recommend the book as a whole, because a bunch of the stories seem like they were just horror stories that someone slapped some Christmas lights on and was like, this is a Christmas story.
Lazy.
But there's a story called Good Deeds by Jeff Strand, which is a sort of fictionalized account of how the song Christmas Shoes was created.
Oh.
If you don't know, it's this super depressing Christmas song about a kid who's buying shoes for his mom because she's dying.
Yeah.
And it's it's very Hallmark Channel. It's really sappy and kind of
but also
tragic. Yes. And you're why do people want to feel like this?
Yeah.
So anyway, in this version of the story, the guy writes this song that he thinks is he doesn't get it. He thinks it's just a perfectly nice song, this nice story and whatever. And it makes people sort of like supernaturally, unbelievably depressed. And so like, he plays it at an open mic and people are like desperately trying to escape and then, horribly depressed after hearing the song. And it basically escalates into creating a sort of anarchic situation in the city because it shows up on the radio, and the whole time the guy's like, I don't get it. I was just trying to write a nice song about Christmas. So I don't recommend the book, but that story in particular is totally worth it. Totally worth your time.
And hey, we're headed into the holiday season, so the timing's right.
Yeah, that's right. The Greatest Zombie Movie Ever by Jeff Strand is it's probably in the teen book area, and I don't read a lot of teen books. It's about a bunch of kids who love horror movies, and they're trying to make their own. I kind of just wanted to bring this one in because this one falls into the category of guy books, as I say with like air quotes. I think there's a lot of teen books that appeal to, I think, stereotypical teenage girls. Sad girl in pretty dresses stuff, all that. Maybe not as much that appeals to like a more stereotypical teen boy. And this is one that I think would appeal to. So if you have like a teenage boy in your life who's very typical teen boy and doesn't take things very seriously and has kind of a juvenile sense of humor sometimes and that kind of thing, this might be a book you would actually read.
All right.
And enjoy. And then there was the Invention of Sound by Chuck Palahniuk, which is a really heavy book that's kind of got some scary real-life elements to it.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm recommending it, but I just thought it was great.
Well, it works for some people.
It does.
The important part is knowing where you fall on the spectrum.
Yeah. Definitely if you're somewhat dead inside, you'll be fine. Maybe this will make you feel feelings again.
Oh.
I'm talking about how a friend of mine feels, not me.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
All right. So my 4. We discussed Star Pig by Delilah S. Dawson, illustrated by Francesco Gaston, which is super fun, kind of a retro arcade sci-fi comedy. Good times. Then I also brought World of Wonders by Aimee Nezhukumatathil, I think. These are short, kind of meditative essays with some biographical stuff mixed in. Lots of different pieces of nature, everything from like monsoons to peacocks to dragon fruit, axolotls, corpse flowers, narwhals, wonders of nature, and she kind of ties them into her own life. It's really kind of nice, short chapters, so if you're looking for something to read a little bit of before bed, this is perfect. Then Boy Meets Girl by Meg Cabot. This is my rom-com that we discussed. Super fun and fluffy. And finally, The Tubman Command by Elizabeth Cobbs. This is about Harriet Tubman, and a lot of Harriet Tubman books cover her younger life, growing up as an enslaved person, and then running and then working on the Underground Railroad. This is the only book I'm aware of that really focuses on her military time, when she was helping the military, when she was leading military scouts. This was about the attack up the Combahee River, where they freed hundreds of slaves and destroyed a bunch of rice fields to kind of strike a blow against the Confederacy. And she was the first Black woman to actually serve in the military. So it's really like a pivotal time in American history. Really good, written by a historian. So even though it's very grounded in actual historical events, she fictionalized it. So we get to imagine what Harriet Tubman might have been feeling, things that may have happened, but we don't have any proof happened. So it still reads very much like fiction, but the events are very historic.
As a great man said, fiction is the lie that tells the truth truer.
Exactly.
That sounds good.
It's great. I really liked it. I read that for my book club, and we all quite enjoyed it.
It's kind of a weird comparison, but I feel like a lot of memoirs by comedians or celebrities start off like with their birth.
Yeah.
And go through all that stuff. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know
Get to the part
this
where you're
wasn't
famous.
super remarkable. Yeah, like, yeah, okay, you were born to parents in Indiana who were middle class, and that's about it.
Well, to be fair, Harriet Tubman's life was quite astonishing.
Yeah. But it's like
beginning to end.
It's certainly been covered a lot.
Yes, it has.
So it's like, oh, well, this is kind of an interesting portion that I feel like I haven't heard as much about.
Well, and anybody who saw the movie Harriet with Cynthia Erivo, this picks up kind of right after that ends. So if you found that intriguing and you want to know more, this would be a great place to step in and kind of learn what she did after all of that.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
All right. We did it.
Yay.
Okay. Well, everyone's homework is to check out one of these books and buy chocolate and vanilla ice cream and mix them together at a specific ratio and then tell us which ratios are the best.
I mean, if you want to do that, I'm not going to stop you. Mixing your own ice creams, I think, is fine.
You don't have as much of a moral opposition to people doing this in their own home.
It's just not practical.
It's just not practical. Ice cream isn't practical.
No, but it is essential.
You know what's not practical? Sprinkles. You know what's great? Sprinkles.
I do love sprinkles.
Ha-ha!
Sprinkles do bring joy.
All right, we have to end this now before you think of something else that's smarter than this idea that attacks this idea.
All right.
Goodbye,
everybody.
See you next time.
See you next time for the top 10.
Yeah, stay tuned. Don't just sit here and wait. It'll be like a month, but it's coming.
It's coming. We're working on it.
All right, goodbye.
Bye.